Brett Walker from MTSU Sidelines, our second straight MTSU Sidelines guest, the current co-sports editor for MTSU Sidelines, but he's also got a promotion coming up on the way. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but first off, Brett, great to have you. How's it going?
Pretty good, Dylan. Thanks so much for having me. It's exciting to have a second week of some student publication members. I know you had Willie Fayler last week.
Yes.
Our lead sports reporter, who's going to be bumping into my role here in a couple weeks. So excited to have some student voices for the second straight week. And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I love having student perspectives when it comes to the radio station, especially student reporters, because you guys can give insight unlike any other. And getting to know you and talk to you over the last few years, I know that you've got a lot of fun stuff that you're able to talk about. So let's get right into it with MTSU football. That is your area of expertise. And I think it's good to start with their last game against New Mexico State this past Saturday. 31-24 overtime victory. Blue Raiders get consecutive wins for the first time this season. And I feel like they began the process of building more momentum looking forward to next year. We'll get more into that in just a second. But to start things off, in your mind, Brett, what was the first thing that really stuck out to you about this game in particular?
Well, for starters, the thing that's really stuck out to me the most was that how they fought back. And I think that's kind of been the theme all season long. It hasn't really had all of the momentum, right? They go up 17-7.
Yeah.
They get the ball back. It looks like they're just going to pile it on kind of similarly to how they did Sam Houston the week before. But then things kind of got away from them. New Mexico State starts to climb back in with their backup quarterback, and you're like, oh, no, here we go again. But the Blue Raiders, led by redshirt freshman Roman Gagliano, they were able to hang on and get the win in overtime. So it was nice to it was almost, in a way, a sigh of relief to see them finally just break through and be able to get that second straight victory, which I believe is something that hasn't happened since Rick Stockstill was here 2 years ago. It was the first consecutive victories.
November of 23, I think.
Absolutely. It was first time Coach Mason has actually had back-to-back victories as a head coach since he was at Vanderbilt way back in 2018. Beat Tennessee and Ole Miss back-to-back weeks, so I'm sure that was a sigh of relief for him. Especially just to finally have some consistency in the win column.
Yeah, I'm sure he was very excited about that, as was the man you mentioned, Roman Gagliano, the leader of, as I call it, the new Roman Empire here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Played great once again, 260 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns on a 24-for-42 clip. He also showed some guts in overtime with that adversity that he had to face, and threw that game-winning 11-yard touchdown to A.J. Jones. As far as his composure and ability are concerned, what has he shown you in the last few weeks and in that game specifically, Brett?
It's energy, and I think you can ask me, you can ask Willie last week, you can ask Coach Mason, anybody in that building, anybody on that staff. It's just his energy. It's like Coach Mason said, it's like watching a kid play football. He just runs around. He's always got a smile on his face. And not that Nick Vattiato didn't. Nick Vattiato was great too. But It's just kind of a different youthful energy, and it's something that they haven't had in a long time in a Blue Raider uniform. And it's great to just see him go out there and be able to play the game the way that he wants to play it. And, I was talking to Willie after the game on Saturday, or 2 weeks ago against Sam Houston when they picked up the big win. I was like, it's almost like watching Brett Favre out there. And I know for all the viewers who are and listeners who are going to be concerned that I was not around for the Brett Favre days. Don't worry, my dad has told me plenty about it, and I can watch plenty of it.
Brett is a football historian.
I am a football historian, too.
Yes.
So, but he's got that energy about him, not trying to compare play styles, but just that youthful exuberance, and he just really goes out there, has fun with it, and he's played great, too. So,
as the kids would say, he's got that dog in him,
he does
I would
have
say,
that dog in him.
About Roman Gagliano. He shows it week in and week out. He talked about the fact he's a redshirt freshman, so he is a very young guy doing this. You can imagine all the pressure that a freshman would have to feel in that situation. So his ability to step into this spot, not be deterred, and keep playing consistent football, I think it says a lot about his mindset and who he is as a player.
Absolutely, and you look at, going back to his first start, Western Kentucky on the road, a team they hadn't beaten in a very long time, and they did not get the win, but I almost think, oftentimes football coaches say you learn more in losses than you do in the wins, and I think that's true. It almost would have, it made the win more special the following week when they were able to get the victory on Senior Day, and just to be able to see him. And I think a key thing about that too was that same Houston game. That didn't start like Western Kentucky did. If anyone remembers, like Western Kentucky, it was bam, bam, bam. He had everything he wanted. Sam Houston, he kind of had to overcome a little bit of adversity. They were down 10-0 early in that game.
In that first quarter,
And I'm sitting over here, we're all looking at the press box. We're like, oh boy, here we go again. They were on the ropes of losing their first winless season at home ever in Floyd Stadium outside of COVID.
Yeah.
And you think, well, you just like I said, it's time and time again, here we go again. But he was able to kind of overcome that, and the team as a whole was, and they just really rallied around him, and they were able to get that win, and just to see him be able to find some consistency, and that's really been the theme all year for this MTSU team. Is a lot of football teams, when you talk about consistency, you think about it from a week-to-week standpoint. You think, okay, the team is not the same this week as they looked last week. From MTSU, it was quarter to quarter.
Yeah.
You didn't know what team you were getting. Like the first quarter, you might see one of the worst football teams in the nation. The second quarter, you might see, one of the best teams in Conference USA, and then it's just the drop-off and then the rise and the fall, and it's just there was no – Coach Mason talked about it all season long. Every press conference, it felt like for the 2-month stretch where they didn't win a game, it was like, we need to play 4 quarters and 60 minutes if we're going to win. That's just a matter of fact. And they were finally kind of able to do that over these last 2 weeks. It was really exciting to see them finally put it together.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cliche, but 4-quarter, 60-minute football, that's what it takes to win football games and put all the pieces together. And I think you mentioned this briefly, but what Roman did against Western Kentucky, he provided a spark. They didn't win the game, but he provided a spark, and I think the team caught on to that, and they attached themselves to that energy that you were talking about. And ever since then, that's been showing in their style of play and their level of play. And if they keep that same exuberance going in next year, it's going to be very, very interesting. I think another thing that's helped MTSU is not just the consistent play style, but they've avoided a lot of those back-breaking mistakes, like a lot of turnovers. They did have one against New Mexico State, but it didn't torpedo their chances of winning. Played pretty clean overall. How big of a difference do you think that has made in the last couple games for them?
To be honest with you, Dylan, it's made a big difference all year long. Like the turnovers outside of, I think FIU was pretty bad if I remember correctly, but like turnovers have not been this team's issue. They were last year, I could have written a thesis about it. Their offensive line woes and their turnovers that killed them all season long.
Yeah.
This year, that really wasn't the problem. It was just consistency and situations. You look at it, they had 4 straight one-score losses in conference play from Kennesaw and Jack State. Those 2 teams are playing Saturday in the Conference USA title game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you look at those games as benchmarks, especially now in the season, you're like, if you could have just found a few more plays here and there, the season might have shaken out a little bit differently. But you can't hang your hat on that, obviously. But it was nice to see the team not necessarily – they still shot themselves in the foot, but it wasn't exactly the turnover-worthy plays like we've been seeing. They just weren't consistent, but they were able to find that over the last 2 weeks. And if you're a Blue Raider fan, it gives you something to look forward to next fall.
And on top of that more consistent play style that they had against New Mexico State, I think the rushing game was a lot better overall as well. They really blitzed New Mexico State when it came to that 199-84 rushing yard advantage. You had Middlebrook, you had Taylor, even Roman Gagliano got into it with some rushing yards. I think that's another thing that MTSU, they had it in spurts this season, but like you've said, it wasn't as consistent as they were hoping for. Got it a little bit more so in this game in Las Cruces. If they can get that going and keep it going into next year, that adds a whole new element to this Blue Raider offense, right?
Absolutely. And you look across this conference, this isn't one that's known for just its passing prestige from its quarterbacks,
yes.
I guess you could say. Nick Vattiato finished 3rd, I believe, in Conference USA passing stats, and he didn't play the last 3 games of the season.
Exactly.
So if that tells you kind of the inconsistency the CUSA has in QBs, I don't know what will. And so really, no matter how good Roman turns out to be and how he develops over this summer, that's really what they need to rely on, I think, moving forward. The other teams in the conference do it. You saw Cam Cook and Jack State succeed with it. You saw Keyshawn Owens and FIU succeed with it. Coach Simmons down at FIU in the 305, they had a great first year under him down there at FIU. So the run game is really what this team needs to lean on moving forward, and I hope they will, regardless of who they have at running back. As of right now, Jaquel Middlebrook expected to come back. Obviously, transfer portal, don't know exactly.
Yeah, you never know, right?
You never know what's going to happen there. To be clear, I haven't heard anything. You just never know. You don't want to count your chickens before football season starts, right? So,
yes.
But regardless if they get him back or not, they have a pretty nice stable of backs, and I'm sure they'll add some more. So it'd be really nice to see them continue to lean on that moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm curious about this question as well. As MTSU has started to put things together and win games the last couple weeks, how did Coach Mason respond to that? What has he said about the team's performance, and what has he seen on the field that he thinks has helped this team to put things together in a better way towards the end of 2025?
From what he's feeling, I would imagine it's relief.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of pressure that goes into that, especially when you haven't won a game in over 2 months. And I can't speak for him, but I would imagine just it's finally that to have that kind of weight off their back and off their shoulders is a great feeling, especially to end the season on a high note. And as far as what's carried them through defensively, it really hasn't been that big of a difference. They're not really a turnover heavy defense, but they were great at stopping the run all season long. They had some busted coverages in the past game that kind of killed them from time to time, but they were a great rushing defense overall. That front seven was mean.
Yes,
And it's a shame that I don't know if you saw the news this week. Anthony Bynum and Shakai
transfer
Woods
portal,
are in the transfer portal, which it's just part of the game these days.
Yes,
you can't really blame them for that. Trying to move somewhere bigger, I imagine, but. That defense really not that much changed, but you look at the offense, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Roman Gagliano's legs have really paid dividends for this MTSU offensive attack. I mean, whether it's him scrambling, which is what it kind of started out as against Western Kentucky, they really didn't design that many runs for him. Yeah. They had the one keeper that he took for a big gain early on, but really it was his escapability.
Yeah,
that's what Coach
the off
Mason,
script plays, yeah.
Off-script escapability, that's really his biggest thing, his biggest strength, as opposed to what MTSU's been dealing with previously. And then they implemented some more design runs this past week. I don't know if you saw that. A couple more QB keepers.
Yeah, a couple more. I saw those QB keepers.
Read options, QB keepers, and it's a nice added third element to that offense because it's just something else for the defense, the opposing defense to key in on.
Yes.
That's a hard one.
That's
to say.
a tongue twister.
Key in on, and it really added another just positive element for that MTSU offense.
It certainly did. And last question in this segment, we'll cut it short, but in the context of creating positive momentum, what do you think the last couple of games have meant for MTSU as they look to take that next step going into next year? Is there good reason for Blue Raider fans to be positive about how 2026 could look, considering how 2025 has ended?
I think so. I mean, you look at it, and 3-9 is the same record as last year. And I know for a lot of Blue Raider fans it's disappointing to see the way that the season ended. And for about 2 months, it was a pretty rough go. I mean, They didn't win a game for about 2 months. Conference play was off to a horrendous start. But I think the momentum that they built with these last 2 wins, it gives enough reason to be excited. I'm excited. I mean, I kind of wish they were starting over playing week 1 next week. But unfortunately, you know how it goes. You got to go through the whole transfer process and a spring, summer camp, fall camp. And all that. So, but I think there is reason to be excited. They brought in some new guys today, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But yeah, I mean, having some solidity at quarterback surely makes things a little bit more exciting for the Blue Raider faithful, I'd imagine.
It's going to help them out tremendously, I would say. And I've seen now 4 seasons of MTSU football since I came onto campus. And I will say the excitement that we've got going into next year is kind of unparalleled considering how MTSU finished the season. So I'm certainly looking forward to it myself. And as you mentioned, Brett, when we come back, we're going to talk National Signing Day for MTSU football. They signed a lot of new guys. We'll get into the ins and outs of that situation. And later on, we'll talk about last night's college football rankings and our opinions on those. So stick around right here on WGNS for All Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Sign-ups are going on right now for First Shot's Winter Basketball League in Rutherford County. Coach Andy Herzer guides kids to sharpen basketball skills and build teamwork through exciting clinics and games. Since 2003, First Shot has empowered youth to grow in mind, spirit, and body. Don't miss out. Join the fun and develop lifelong skills. Visit firstshottn.org today and register for the Winter Basketball League. That's firstshottn.org.
Are you paying too much for home and auto insurance? Let the experienced professionals at My Team Insurance in Murfreesboro help. With decades of experience, their team provides superior customer service, low rates, and a clear understanding of your coverage needs. Whether it's home, auto, health, business, or life insurance, My Team Insurance makes protection simple and affordable. Visit myteaminsurance.com today. That's myteaminsurance.com. My Team Insurance, proud supporters of the Blue Raiders.
In Rutherford County, you know how much it means to have neighbors you can count on. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Wommel, here to help life go right when you combine home and auto insurance. Call me today at 615-890-0850 and let me save you money and time. Your home, your auto, together they're where life happens. I'm State Farm Agent Andy Wommel. It's smart to protect them together to help life go right. Give me a call at 615-890-0850 and let me help you save by combining your home and auto.
Whether you need general vehicle upkeep and maintenance or a complete vehicle overhaul, Hall's Auto Care is here for you. We're locally owned and operated by Greg Hall and have been in business since 2014. You'll get excellent service and trustworthy advice with Hall's Auto Care. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. We're ready to help get you safely on the road. Hall's Auto Care, 907 Ridgely Road, just off Broad Street behind Chili's. Online at hallsautocare.net. Hall's Auto Care.
Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home has served Murfreesboro families with compassion and care since 1880. As a family-owned funeral home, we're committed to honoring every life with dignity through traditional services, cremation options, and pre-planning that gives you peace of mind. For over 140 years, we've been here when it matters most. Visit JenningsandAyers.com. Jennings & Ayers Funeral Home, honoring life and comforting families since 1880.
Power outages are unpredictable, but with Roscoe Brown's generator services, your peace of mind doesn't have to be. Whether it's storm season or an unexpected blackout, our generators ensure that your home stays powered. Installation, maintenance, or repair, our team's ready 24/7 to respond to your needs. With Roscoe Brown, you're not just getting a generator, you're securing a lifeline for those moments that you needed the most. Ensure your home is always powered. Your family's comfort is our commitment. RoscoeBrown.com.
Afternoon, clearing up this wreck over here on 40 westbound at Spence Lane. It's got traffic a little bit slow. We're just glad it wasn't over in the eastbound lanes where it's really slow now, headed out past the airport as you continue on out into Hermitage, and that traffic pushing into Wilson County right now on I-40 going eastbound. It's been slow on 840 east, just down from 65 like you're headed towards Paytonsville there in Williamson County. On a stalled vehicle, it clogged up traffic pretty good. When you need dependable towing for your car and truck, call STR Towing and Recovery. I'm Commander Chuck. You're on time traffic.
It's all sports talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, wgnsradio.com, and Big G TV.
Welcome back on a crisp and cool Wednesday night in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. It's like 36 degrees outside right now. Winter come early, Brett.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go with crisp. I was pretty chilly on the ride in to MTSU this morning.
Yeah, I don't know if crisp is the right description.
Do you lose crisp whenever you get to car starting weather?
That's a good question.
Because I do. If I have to start the car, it's not crisp. But you were in South Dakota for a while.
I was in South Dakota. I had 20 degrees below some mornings. Now, I like the cold. You know that about me. So
yeah, I'm not big on it.
For me, I'm kind of like, you're more of a warm weather beach guy, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
maybe.
like that?
Yeah.
Gotcha. We'll see you on the beaches of Florida in about 50 years. But glad to have you in on All Sports Talk. We're going to talk National Signing Day and some stuff going around college football, specifically for MTSU to start. Brett was over at the National Signing Day event for MTSU. And to start things off, Brett, as far as the stars that MTSU signed for this class, who are some of the names that stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, they got 14 signees to this class, 4 from Tennessee high schools, which was huge. And honestly, to get into the semantics of it, they've got quite a few exciting guys, to be honest with you. But one thing that stuck out to me is Coach Mason started the press conference today, and he was like, we recruited 14 guys. But it's really 15 because we signed Landon Collins, walk-on freshman wide receiver, to a scholarship yesterday.
Yes.
And so to me, that was huge just to hear him come out and say that. Collins obviously had a big end of the season. In 5 games, he had 16 catches for $181 and a touchdown against New Mexico State. Ended up being a pretty critical one there in that game. So it was nice to see him get a little recognition in front of all these young guys.
Yeah, and Landon really, like you mentioned, he came on late in the year and became a huge contributor for MTSU. He's another guy that I'm looking to take a big jump come 2026. When you look at who Mason has signed so far, Brett, do you think there's any way to know exactly what Derek was looking for with this class, what holes he was trying to fill, and maybe what, I guess, for lack of a better term, his philosophy was with this 2026 signing class?
Yeah, and one of his philosophy really, it's not 100% really changed from last year, because last year was his first legitimate full signing class. This was his second crack at it, and really they're just looking at guys that can contribute, whether it be depth pieces at offensive line, or even some guys on defense that might play some pretty significant minutes next year. They're really always just looking at that, and then at character guys. They want people that want to be here, and I think in this day and age, it's always hard.
Yes.
To find kids who want to play for a school, want to play for a coach, and so I asked him about. I was like, is that a lot of young guys played for MTSU this year, whether it be to injury or just because of struggling performances elsewhere. And I asked him about that. I said, is that one of the pitches to get guys to come here? And he was like, yeah. They see, obviously you don't want your offensive linemen playing in their first year.
Right.
That's kind of what he said. He was like, we don't. You don't want an offensive lineman coming in and starting as a freshman, but some of these other places, maybe in your secondary, shuffling in on the defensive line, getting some rotation, 15, 16 snaps a game, that's pretty significant, offering for, a kid fresh coming out of high school to be able to come in and play Division I college football, get, significant minutes. Sure, they might be coming in during the blowouts or, just at the end of games, but
sure,
anything's better than nothing, and it's a key pitch, I think, for him to get people over here at Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, and you talked about how tough it is, especially in the modern college sports landscape, to get people who want to stay with your program throughout the entire 4-year process, and that's not to diminish anybody who ends up transferring out. It's obviously understandable with the modern college football landscape that we see, but I think that is one thing, like you mentioned, that Derek has certainly been looking for with his signing classes as of late. As far as this year's signing class goes and comparing it to last year's, is there anything different about it or anything unique that you can look at compared to what we saw last year with the signing class?
As far as philosophy, I would say no, not really. They still got some in-state guys. He did make the comment that they're really trying to, if you look through the list, which I posted on my Twitter, MTSU's got it up everywhere. I won't go and read through the whole 14.
We'd be here a while.
We'd be here a while,
yeah,
especially with some of these names. But, you can look at it. They really attacked Florida. That was somewhere that they went.
Yes.
He made the comment that a lot of Conference USA schools are in Florida, and so to kind of get back in there, I know Stockstill and his crew was there a lot. So to kind of get Middle Tennessee's footprint back into Florida was kind of an emphasis. And not necessarily a guy, not saying this guy will contribute immediately, but one thing that just really stuck out to me in the midst of that whole press conference was he talked about Jaden Hamrick, tight end out of Tyler, Texas.
Yes.
He did compare him to Holden Willis.
Ooh, that's a
which
pretty
is
big
a pretty big
comparison to make.
And as far as the wingspan and everything, he is a 6'6" guy. So really, I think the main comparison he was trying to make was size and maybe build. But it was kind of interesting to hear him come out and say that, make that comparison about one of MTSU's more premier players in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and tight end is something they're going to be looking to have somebody slot into because, of course, Hunter Tipton went to the transfer portal. So a guy like Jaden Hambrick could certainly potentially slot into that role as the years go by. And like you said, he looks like a really talented kid, so we'll be excited to see him in the future. And I've heard a lot that Coach Mason likes to put an emphasis on in-state recruiting and getting local guys who can produce in a big way. When you do look at this year's class, there are several from Tennessee once again. Plenty of players from all over, though. You talked about him going back to Florida. This is kind of a follow-up to what we were talking about, but do you think Coach Mason, from that aspect, has changed where he goes to find signees, or is it more of an expansion of where he's looking overall?
I would say it's more of an expansion because you still do have that Tennessee core of those guys.
Right.
One key thing that really stuck out was a lot of these kids, they're not done playing high school football yet. They're playing this upcoming weekend or playing. I know some of the Florida championships are a little bit different, but like Justice Haggard, obviously, he's at Oakland, not playing due to injury this week. Mason said, but he looks for guys who know how to win.
Yes.
So when they get here, the culture, they're not having to. You don't have to really teach them all that much. They know the standard and what is expected of them, and that came, straight out of Mason's mouth. This afternoon that's what they're looking for, and so you're not teaching guys. You're not going and picking one gym from a team of bums, right?
Yeah.
You're going and picking a guy that knows how to win, knows what the culture is like. And so the expectation is already there, and so now whenever they got to get over the Division I college football hurdle, but it's an easier kind of step up for them because, talking about Oakland High School, I'm sure we have a lot of Oakland listeners in here tonight. They're juggernaut, like Dylan said. I mean, they're a tough out every year. Get a big game against Ravenwood coming up on Saturday.
State
championship. So we'll see how that shakes out, but. I think they want to go after winners, and that seems to be what they've done here in 2025 again.
Yeah, Coach Mason, he doesn't care where you come from. As long as you've got that winning philosophy and that winning standard, he'll take you. They even got a guy from Canada to join the football team. So Coach Mason, like you mentioned, really expanding his horizons as far as his recruiting and signing classes go. Now, I want to get into this for just a second. This isn't entirely to do with MTSU, but it does have a little bit of a leeway or a little bit of a relation to what we were just talking about. I'd have to imagine, and you can, I'm sure, really attest to this with what you've heard, that the way the calendar is structured in college football right now, it makes the process of signing guys sometimes a little bit tougher. It was even harder in years past when the portal window and the signing class window were at about the same time. But when you've got the signing window right after the end of the season, I'm sure that has also presented some challenges to Coach Mason. Has he talked about that at all, or has that been a topic of conversation for him?
Yeah, he spoke about that a little bit today in regards to, I asked him about the transfer portal really being pushed back. In years past, they were kind of bunched right in there together.
Yeah.
And so it was really like boom, 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 one after the other. You got to get all these guys signed. You've only got so much time to do it. Now, early signing day was today on December what day is it?
The 3rd.
December the 3rd.
Yes.
Last year, transfer portal window opened on December the 9th.
Yes.
And so if that were to be the same, that's a very short turnaround. Now, the transfer portal, it's just one window, of course, but it's January 2nd to the 16th. And so they have really this dead winter period where they're just able to kind of sink their teeth into the transfer portal, kind of look at, Mason said today they're even already looking at 2027 high school recruits.
Wow.
And they're also looking at transfer portal guys for this upcoming year. So they're just having, that time to sink their teeth into that and really just kind of figure out and key in on who they want to go after.
Sure.
Because in years past, he made the comment, you just go grab a guy here, grab a guy there, and you don't really get to examine every part of it, whether it be character or work ethic. And you're really just going after talent. Some guys dropping down from higher divisions into conference, from higher, P4 guys coming down. You don't really get to analyze that. You're just like, here's a tight end from the Big Ten here. Come here.
Right.
It's just like
you don't get to know them as much on an individual basis.
On an individual basis,
right.
And he was doing exit meetings today with current players and to kind of recap the year. I think he was headed back into some more of those after our press conference, but. The portal window and all of this, the calendar, which has been under heavy scrutiny. I don't know if you knew this, Dylan, but it's been under heavy scrutiny. The last weekend or
Heard
so.
Heard it a time or two.
Mr. Coach Kiffin down there in Oxford, but
the favorite son of Oxford now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he talked about Mason talked about the calendar, and he was like, if they had found out maybe this time last year or in the early summer or the spring of last year that the calendar was going to change, he would have been all for it. But the problem is they didn't learn that until fall camp. And so the kind of suddenness, it sounds like a long time, a couple months, but it's really not in the long term.
Not in college football.
Not in college football.
Yeah.
It goes quick and it keeps going quicker. But I think long term wise, it looks. I think it's a better system. They are going to have to, of course, everything that's happened with Coach Kiffin down in Oxford, they're going to have to sort that out, and they're going to have to figure out, a better system so coaches aren't leaving right before playoff bids. But
yes,
overall, the one portal window I do think is probably a good thing, and I would imagine Mason feels the same way because now you can't get guys in here in December and they leave you in March,
right?
Or whenever April, May, whenever the spring window was. So long term may be a good thing, but there's still some things they need to shake out. But from at least what Mason said, it would be nice if they'd figure those things out in a more timely manner.
Yeah.
Right. Preferably not right before the season starts, but
a little bit earlier, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Coach Mason probably wouldn't be complaining about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I figure he would prefer that vastly.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would complain about that. And, you brought up situations going on across the nation that really are a result of this college football calendar. Of course, Lane Kiffin, as I said, favorite son of Oxford right now with all the stuff that's gone down over the past couple weeks. He's now in LSU, but he was kind of, I guess you could argue, backed into that decision because of this current calendar. I mean, heck, Penn State is still trying to find a head coach, and they're going to have, I think, like the last place recruiting class in the FBS because they don't have a head coach right now. And because of this calendar and these deadlines, it forces coaches to want to leave early, so to speak. We got a couple of American Conference coaches, that is, who are moving up to SEC jobs and kind of having not to abandon ship, but have to change their roles a little bit earlier. So it's a real issue, and I'm very curious to see what happens over the next few months and years to kind of alter that, because I think you would agree that it needs some sort of fix to it.
Yeah, they got to fix it, but I will piggyback off what you said for a minute. MTSU fans, if you are listening, your Blue Raiders did indeed out-recruit Penn State.
Wow.
Because of the way...
Because of the situation, yes.
Because of the situation, yeah. The Blue Raiders have a better signing class than Penn State currently has. You can say that with certainty. But yeah, for stability, that's really all it needs to get fixed. The only reason it needs to get fixed is for stability, because these, you can't have, and Coach Mason, we were talking a little bit, not just me and some of the other reporters in the room.
Yeah.
We're talking after it was over, and, he was like, if you fire a guy, then you need to have somebody immediately there to pick up the slack.
Right.
I think about what Michigan State did, where they fired their coach, and then 2 hours later they named the former Northwestern
Fitzgerald.
coach, Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
They named him the coach 2 hours later. They had it lined up. They had everything worked out.
Kentucky did that too with Will Stein. Yeah.
They fired Stoops and parted ways, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And then they subbed in Will Stein right after. I think they were introducing him today actually.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy that you can that they planned for that, and then you've got a school like Penn State who has just kind of been in limbo for, what was the date that they fired Franklin? Do you remember?
think it was the middle of October.
You're firing a coach in the middle of October. We're now in December, and you still don't have a replacement, while other schools have fired their coaches in the last 3 days and already have a replacement.
Will the Penn State head coaching search ever end? Nobody knows for sure. One thing we do know for sure, Brett, is that we're going to talk more college football when we come back. We're going to react to last night's controversial CFP rankings and talk a little bit about Conference Championship Weekend. So stay tuned right here on WGNS for more All Sports Talk.
Hi, this is Wade Hayes of Toots Restaurants, and our family would like to thank this community for supporting Toots for 40 years.
Head over to Toots.com for our daily specials, our menu, and all of our locations. Check out our Kids Club for some extra deals. Thank you to our patrons and customers.
Thank you for dining with us since 1985.
Thank you, Rutherford County.
Thank you for dining with us for 40 years.
Good food and fun.
Stones River Manor offers assured care.
It's so warm and welcoming.
Independent living.
What states have you lived in?
Lived in Illinois and here. My husband worked for Quick Growth.
Assisted living.
I have my own place and I love it. The Activity Center has the Bible study that I like very much.
Adult daycare and respite care, and specialized physical rehabilitation care.
I love the friendliness and the family attitude that they have here.
Visit them online at stonesrivermanor.com or stop by. They're near the intersection of Haynes Drive and Memorial Boulevard.
Hi, I'm Wade Hayes, owner of Toots Good Food and Fun. I strongly believe that volunteers make a positive difference in the quality of life here in our community.
Rutherford County's Chief of Staff, Eric Hennessy, has a history of helping those in need. He's been honored with awards recognizing his pro bono legal assistance to those in need. In addition, his involvement in mission trips, Service on both Main Street as well as the Discovery Center's boards demonstrates a pattern of volunteer service to this community. Thank you, Eric Hennessy.
At Toots, we strongly believe that it's important for every one of our citizens to give some of their time and talent back into the community. And we want to honor these individuals with a Toots gift certificate good at any of our Rutherford County locations. 860 Northwest Broad Street, on Church Street in the Barfield area, in Smyrna on Sam Ridley, and Toots West on Franklin Road at Rucker Lane.
Next on All Sports Talk, it's the Blue Raider Insider Report with Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb & Associates.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Coming up at 6 o'clock, we've got women's basketball. Middle Tennessee hosting Belmont tonight. We'll get to that preview in just a moment. But also National Signing Day for college football, and Middle Tennessee has at least 12, if not a couple of more, that have come in today. Let's run through the list that we have at this moment. Emmanuel Giamfi, a defensive tackle out of Buford, Georgia. Bryson Maddox, wide receiver out of Clinton High School in Clinton, Tennessee. That's up near Oak Ridge. Rocco Williams, a quarterback from Pickerington, Ohio. Justice Haggard, safety from right here in Murfreesboro. Ethan Sherman, cornerback from Jacksonville, Florida. Jonas Jimerson, outside linebacker from Memphis. Bryce Williams, safety, St. Cloud, Florida. Jaden Arenas Michelle, defensive tackle from Montreal, Canada. Jack Molman, offensive lineman from Ponte Vedra, Florida. Jaden Hambrick, tight end out of Tyler, Texas. Shane Rochelle, an inside linebacker out of Miami Gardens, Florida. And Christian Moreau, a defensive tackle out of Miramar, Florida. Looks like the Blue Raiders, again, stayed heavy at home, but also dipped into the Sunshine State a little heavier than they did a year ago. But so the full roster of signees can be found on GoBlueRaiders.com. Well, coming up tonight at the Murphy Center, it is Middle Tennessee women's basketball. The Lady Raiders return to the Glass House to host mid-state rival Belmont. Then tip-off scheduled for 6:30. The game airs on the Blue Raider Network beginning at 6 o'clock with Dick Palmer. It marks the 24th meeting in the series between the Blue Raiders and Bruins. MTSU owns a 17-6 lead over Belmont in the all-time series. The Bruins won a WBIT game in Nashville back on March 20th, 64-51. Middle coming off a loss 69-47 to Mississippi State in the Emerald Coast Classic, and that was in the Bay Bracket Championship game. Macy Pfeiffer had 13 points and 9 rebounds in the ball game. The Blue Raiders are 56-3 over the last 3 seasons at home. The Blue Raiders' only losses have come against Seton Hall, Princeton, and Tennessee. So tonight the Blue Raiders try to defend the Glass House against a really good Belmont ball club. Middle Tennessee men, boy, if you missed it on Monday night, scintillating game against UAB. The Blue Raiders got the win 76-61. The Middle was down 33-32 at halftime, and the Blue Raiders put together a 7-0 run shortly into the second half, capped off by thunderous jam by Tori Alston. Alston was your Built Ford Tough player of the game, and the Middle jumped out at that point 45-39. The full run was 13-2 that put Middle up eventually by as much as 19, and the Blue Raiders put up 48 points in the paint, which outscored UAB by 12 in the paint, which is an area where they expect to do very well. Up next, the Belmont Bruins roll into town on Sunday, part of a women's and men's doubleheader. The women's game against Memphis will start at 1 o'clock. The Blue Raider men will tip off at 3:30 against Belmont, and you can hear all of that action right here on the Blue Raider Network and WGNS. That's it for today, folks. Women's basketball pregame show coming up at 6 o'clock right here on the Big G, WGNS.
It's All Sports Talk from the Good Neighbor Network, FM 1019, 100.5, AM 1450, WGNSradio.com, and Big G TV.
Darkness has fallen here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee on a Wednesday night. Dylan Simmons with you alongside my special guest, Brett Walker, on All Sports Talk. Brett, how was your Thanksgiving for all the folks at home?
It was great. I got to Wichita commute, so I was able to be home for a couple days. My parents were glad to finally get to see me after a busy football season. So got to hang out with my parents, my grandparents, and my nephew, who's 2. So and my sister too, if she's listening, I guess.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to disappoint her. I like hanging out with you too, sis. So
Absolutely. Well, we wanted to give some positive vibes because we're about to unload a lot of negativity, I'd imagine, about these CFP rankings from last night. Unveiled on ESPN. A lot of controversial decisions, I would say. As of right now, it's Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame are the first 10. Then you'd have potentially the ACC champ or maybe 2 G5 champs to follow after that. BYU and Miami, at the moment, are 2 bubble teams just left outside of the playoffs. So, as a Hurricanes fan, I have a lot of thoughts about this, but before I share my opinions, Brett, what did you think about the rankings last night?
It feels like every week somebody's upset about something, but this week was pretty bad.
Yes.
In particular, you just look at the bubble teams. It's really frustrating because last year you could make the argument there were not more than 12 teams worthy of being in that playoff.
Right.
If we look at the games, what transpired, I mean, SMU was not very, even. I know if there's anyone wearing orange listening, I mean, Tennessee didn't really have a chance. Tennessee didn't have much of a chance last year when they turns out when they got in. It's like there was 4 or 5 teams that had a shot at a natty and a bunch of fluff. This year, I genuinely believe like teams that are on that bubble, Texas is 9-3, but the way they're playing right now, you're telling me they wouldn't have a shot at knocking off somebody? I know, any black and gold listeners, Vanderbilt is surely disappointed about, they're going to be the first 10-2 SEC team since the 12-team playoff started to miss.
Yeah, to miss the playoff.
Yeah. So I know that's incredibly frustrating, regardless of the very strong, and promising season that they had. Hopefully, I know they're looking to hopefully get Pavia into the Heisman talks over these last couple weeks. I mean, there's just some frustrations, and I understand it, and I think ultimately what's going to end up happening is enough people are going to complain that they're going to expand the playoff again. I feel like that's probably
probably the end goal.
That's probably the end goal, which it's good and it's bad because like last year, no more than 12 teams deserved to be in. This year, it's just kind of more of a toss-up. There's no team. I guess you could say Ohio State because they're the defending champ. They're undefeated. They whooped Michigan on the road last week to kind of solidify them. Obviously, as the best team in the country, but they don't just look, far and away better. And we'll see on Saturday they play Indiana in the Big Ten title game, so we'll see kind of how much better they are, if at all.
Yes.
And so it's just a year where I feel like anyone could really win it, and it's kind of frustrating to see some of these bubble teams get left out, but. Ultimately, I don't know if I would expand it yet, just because I feel like this is kind of an odd year.
Right.
I think if it consistently happens, though, you're gonna have to change something. Whether it be add more teams or do it March Madness style, not to the 64, but I'm saying like do a final. Don't rank them throughout the year like multiple times. Just do a selection show maybe.
Yeah.
I know I saw that recommended on social media today. Somebody said just do one final selection show. Don't slide.
Don't do other ranking shows.
Don't slide teams in and out every week. Which I mean, it would be hard for ESPN to give up that money that they get.
Many ratings.
So many ratings for all of those weekly shows, but logistically, it would make more sense to just rank them all at the end instead of just sliding them up and down, pulling them in and out. But definitely frustrating to see some of those teams left out. Especially some of the more deserving ones like your Miami Hurricanes, Vanderbilt. I know people were really upset about. Texas, I don't feel as bad for personally because I mean if
they lost 3 games and they played close against Kentucky and Mississippi State too.
Yeah, if they were 10-2, I would be singing a whole different song. But that Florida loss looks really bad.
That's bad. Yeah,
that's really bad. This is not probably one of the worst Florida teams I've ever seen. So. Yeah, so that Texas, I mean, that's enough to keep them out in my book. But some of those other teams, their frustrations are understood and not forgotten.
Yeah, I'll add the Canes perspective here for a second. When you look at these rankings, head-to-head matters in every spot except Miami, Notre Dame. I just don't get it. Oklahoma is ahead of Alabama. I'm not sure Oklahoma's a better team, but they force more turnovers and won in Bryant-Denny Stadium, so they're ahead of Alabama as they should be. Okay, Texas has one more loss than Vanderbilt. They're still above them in the rankings at 13, while Vanderbilt's at 14. The only case where that isn't the idea is Notre Dame and Miami. Why? I don't know. I don't get the inconsistent logic of this committee. But here's what I will say. Not all hope is lost for Miami. I think there is a situation for them to get in, and here's how it could happen. I think they need Alabama to win to feel comfortable about them not dropping and then there being a buffer between themselves and Notre Dame. And then if BYU loses, that should probably take them out of the equation, especially if they lose big again to Texas Tech. And if that is the case, then you've got a direct head-to-head, side-by-side comparison of Notre Dame and Miami for that last at-large spot. And it'd be hard for me to imagine that Miami doesn't get the nod then. So I think Miami's actually got a pretty good shot. If I was a Notre Dame fan, I'd be pretty stressed at the moment because there are a lot of ways that you could get knocked out of this tournament. So I think it's down to Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami probably for that last up-for-grabs playoff spot outside, of course, of the conference championship matchups. But either way, it's going to be a really interesting next couple weeks of football. Speaking of conference championships, real quick, what is the one that you are most excited about from this weekend, Brad?
I'm really excited about the American Championship. I believe that one's on Friday.
I think so, yeah.
2 head coaches who are going to be out the door the next week.
Yeah.
If they lose, probably. I mean, I would imagine that
hasn't happened since the 2012 MAC championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to not great to see, but I'm glad that they were able to coach through the rest of their seasons,
right.
as they should in that case. I know other situations were a little bit different because they're moving conferences and they're jumping into higher level,
elevating their profile,
elevating their profile as opposed to just jumping ship to another conference school, which is kind of the situation with Ole Miss.
They handled it a lot better too.
Yeah, while their AD wasn't so comfortable with that, and it was understandable,
right?
So I'm glad these coaches are able to coach through the rest of the season. I'm particularly interested in that one. Some non-playoff implication conference championships. We cannot forget about the Conference USA, Jack State and Kennesaw State in a rematch. Really excited to see the Owls, how they compete with Jack State this go around. See if they can get a conference title. Jerry Mack might get poached. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if
no word on that yet.
No word on that yet. Absolutely, I know nothing. But it would not shock me if someone bigger came calling and poached him away, or he might give it another year.
Sure.
But the job that he's done there is great. But what about you? I know those are my two.
Yes.
I'm kind of, maybe it's just where I've been covering MTSU for long enough, 2 years now. I'm kind of.
You're attached to Conference USA.
In a sick, twisted way, yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to see how those other teams shake out, especially knowing that MTSU was so close to beating both of them. It's kind of interesting just to see how that shakes out. And then the American, it's interesting to see which program is going to win the championship and find themselves. Obviously, Tulane has the more playoff implicable win if they win, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But what about you? What about what's your matchup of the weekend?
Yeah, real quick, I'm going to say Ohio State, Indiana, the first 1-2 conference championship game since I think 2009 when Florida and Alabama played. You got to go back to the Tim Tebow Gators and Greg McElroy's Alabama Crimson Tide. So it's been a long time, 15 years or 16 years, I should say, since we've seen one of those. So I'm really excited to see how Indiana can compete with Ohio State. Heisman could be on the line as well between Mendoza and Julian Sayans. So it's going to be a really good primetime matchup over there on Fox. Also, the college football sicko and me is excited for the ACC championship game to see if Duke, who somehow made the ACC title game, can disrupt the system and beat Virginia to prevent the ACC from maybe getting in the playoff altogether. So it's going to be a wild thing. But it looks like that's about all the time we have for tonight. Brett, thank you so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Happy to be here. Representing MTSU sidelines. It's our 100th anniversary of publication this semester. Well, this whole year, and so it's great to be able to give them some more publicity and feel free to check it out. MTSU's free student independent newspaper. Go check us out.
And Brett will soon being the co-managing editor as well for Sideline, so congratulations to Brett. We'll do it again sometime. Appreciate you joining me. Stay tuned right here on WGNS. MTSU women's basketball versus Belmont is on the way, coming up with the pregame at 6 o'clock. And we'll be back with All Sports Talk next week, so make sure you check that out. For Brett, for my producer Jackson, I am Dylan Simmons saying so long, everyone, and have an electric night.
This has been All Sports Talk on WGNS and Big G TV, where we hit every level of the game, from the preps to MTSU across